You know that feeling when you think you've got a character totally figured out?
Oh, yeah, like you know their whole deal.
Exactly. You've seen their flaws, their strengths, all that. But what if there was this whole other story, like a really brutal, unwritten chapter that made them who they are?
That's a great hook.
Well, today we're diving back into a world we know, but it's dark. The Hunger Games.
And specifically, Haymitch Abernathy.
Right. Our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack the big stuff from Suzanne Collins' new prequel, Sunrise on the Reaping, which, wow, everyone's been waiting for this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Haymitch's origin story. We want to pull out the key events, what he goes through emotionally and, like, what this all means for the wider Panem universe. Get the most important nuggets.
It adds so much context.
Totally. And just so everyone's on the same page, the book comes out March 18th, 2025. It takes us back 24 years before Katniss, right into the 50th Hunger Games.
The second Quarter Quell?
Yeah, a Quarter Quell. And if you remember anything about those, they're always worse. They have these, like, extra cruel twists.
Definitely. And, starting the book, what really struck me was how Collins just throws you into Haymitch's early life. He's 16,
Just a kid.
living in District 12
Mm-hmm.
with his mom, his brother Sid, and he has a sweetheart, Lenore Dove. It gives you this picture of, well, as normal as life can be in District 12, I guess. There's connection there.
Yeah, that bit of normalcy, his family, Lenore, it really makes what happens next hit so much harder, doesn't it? You see what he stands to lose before it all just shatters.
Absolutely. And the shattering, it happens on his birthday. He gets swept up in the reaping for this Quarter Quell, which they call twice amplify.
Twice amplify.
Yeah. So because it's the 50th anniversary, the Quell's special rule is double the tributes. 4 from each district, not 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So from District 12 initially, it's Luella, Maisie Lee Donner, that name might ring a bell, and Wyatt Callow, plus Haymitch.
Maisie Don, right, related to Madge later on.
Exactly. And the reaping itself is just immediate chaos. There's another boy, Woodbine, who gets reaped, and he actually tries to run for it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he gets shot right there. And it's in that moment that, terror and confusion, Haymitch steps forward as a replacement tribute.
Well, wait, he volunteered? Or was he reaped and then stepped in for someone else? The outline says he's reaped, then mentions Woodbine being shot and Haymitch stepping in. Let's clarify that sequence. Okay, looks like Wyatt Callow and Woodbine are the initial male tributes. Woodbine tries to escape and is shot. Then Haymitch is reaped as the replacement. Okay, got it.
Right, so the sequence is Wyatt and Woodbine are drawn. Woodbine tries to escape, gets shot. Then Haymitch's name is drawn as the replacement for Woodbine. Apologies if that was unclear.
No, that makes sense now. So he's reaped under these horrific circumstances, replacing someone just killed trying to escape. Talk about setting a tone.
Yeah, it pretty much seals his fate, or seems to. 16 years old, heading into the arena.
But even there, in that nightmare connections form, right? Alliances. What about the District 12 tributes, particularly Haymitch and Maisie Lee Donner?
Yeah, that bond is really central. You see them. And the other District 12 tribute, Wyatt, initially trying to stick together. But the connection between Haymitch and Maisie Lee deepens significantly.
More than just strategy.
Oh, definitely. It feels very personal.
Yeah.
In a place designed to, like, strip away your humanity, they find this real connection. It's vital, not just for trying to survive the arena, but for everything that comes after for Haymitch.
And Haymitch, he's not just reacting, is he? He has a plan.
Yeah.
Something. Audacious.
He does. He's thinking bigger picture, even then. His plan is to actually sabotage the arena's force field, the generator.
Oh, wow. That's bold. That feels like a flicker of the Haymitch we know, the strategist. An early act of rebellion, almost.
It really is. But this plan, and just the games themselves, they happen against this backdrop of just awful losses. Collins really doesn't hold back on the brutality of this Quell.
Like who? What happens to the others?
Well, Luella, one of the District 12 girls, she dies during the tribute parade, before even getting into the arena proper.
Oh, man.
Then there's Maisie Lee, his closest ally. She's killed by mutations, those horrible engineered creatures the Capitol uses.
The mutts are always terrifying.
Yeah. And another tribute, Welly, just starves to death, which is such a grim reminder of the conditions.
It's the sheer cruelty of it all.
And then there's this moment of, like, dark irony. A career tribute, Silka. She throws her axe, it hits the force field.
The one Haymitch is trying to sabotage?
Could be related. Or maybe just the edge of the arena.
Yeah.
But the axe rebounds, hits her, kills her instantly.
Wow. The arena itself is just actively lethal, even accidentally. So how does Haymitch end up winning?
It comes down to his plan. The climax is him setting off an explosive device right at the force field generator.
He actually does it.
He does. But the blast knocks him out cold. He wakes up later, in the Capitol, finding out he's the victor. But Collins uses this phrase, victorious captive.
Victorious captive. Oof. That says it all, doesn't it? There's no real winning.
Not in these games.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, the horror is over. He survived the arena.
But it's not over. Not even close. What happens when he gets back to District 12?
Yeah.
It's somehow even worse. This is where Haymitch truly breaks, I think.
It really is. His homecoming is just horrific. He finds his house destroyed. And his mother and his brother, Sid, they're dead, murdered, clearly an act of retaliation by Snow.
For making the Capitol look foolish with the force field.
Exactly. For winning in a way they didn't control, Snow makes sure every victory comes with unbearable personal cost. It's pure cruelty.
And Lenore, his sweetheart, does he even get to see her?
He does. They reunite, briefly.
Yeah.
But then President Snow sends this gift. It's poisoned.
No.
Yeah. Lenore dies, right there, in Haymitch's arms. And her last words, she tells him he needs to be part of the rebellion, to fight back.
Oh my God, so that's the catalyst, the final blow, but also maybe the first spark?
It feels like it. And this is where everything clicks into place, you know. Think about the Haymitch from the original books.
Right, the alcoholic, cynical mentor who seems almost broken.
It's not just a personality, is it?
Right.
It's a direct result of this. The drinking, the cynicism, even his weirdly effective tough love mentoring. It all stems from this unimaginable trauma, this loss. It completely reframes him.
It really does. It's like Snow tried to crush him completely, first in the arena, then by just wiping out his entire world.
Exactly. And that personal, brutal manipulation of Haymitch, it's really just a small-scale version of what the Capitol does constantly. Collins really digs into how the games are more than just a bloodbath.
Yeah, the propaganda angle.
How they're televised, how they're edited, how they're used to control the narrative and mislead everyone watching. It's manipulation on a massive scale.
It feels chillingly relevant still. Does Collins connect it to anything specific, like philosophical ideas?
She does, interestingly. The book apparently draws on ideas from the philosopher David Hume.
Hume, how so?
Well, Hume wrote about how governments maintain control not just through force, but by managing public opinion, by controlling information, basically, manufacturing consent.
Okay, I see the connection.
And that's exactly what the Capitol does with the games. They don't just show the violence. They package it, spin it, edit it to shape how people in the districts, and even the Capitol, perceive reality. It's about control, pure and simple, not just entertainment.
Beyond the politics, though, the book really focuses on Haymitch's internal state, right? The psychological toll.
Oh, absolutely. You track his emotional journey, or maybe devolution is a better word sometimes. You see how the loss, the survival, the guilt, how it all just fundamentally changes him. It's not just what happened, but how it shapes his mind, his spirit.
And in that shaping, you see the beginnings of, well, the rebellion, maybe.
Yeah, what Collins calls the seeds of rebellion. It's fascinating how it blends the personal and the political, Maisley's alliance, that shared humanity in the arena. And then Lenore's dying words.
Yeah.
It's personal love, personal loss, turning into political resistance. Those sparks ignite something much bigger. It shows how individual pain can fuel collective action.
And it's not just Haymitch's story in isolation. The book weaves in connections to the bigger Hunger Games world, doesn't it? Expanding the lore.
Definitely. It really fleshes things out. You get mentions of Katniss's parents, her father, Burdock Everdeen, and her mother, Astrid.
Oh, wow. So we learn more about them.
We get glimpses, connections, and you also see earlier versions or early roles for characters we know from later, people like Plutarch Heavensbee.
Plutarch was around back then.
Yep. And BT, Wires.
Yeah.
Even Mags makes an appearance. It really ties the whole saga together in some unexpected ways.
That's fantastic for longtime fans. Okay, so stepping back, why is this story, this deep dive into Haymitch, so important? What makes it matter?
Well, it's being called a grim, emotionally wrenching origin story. It sounds like it doesn't pull any punches with the violence or the emotional weight.
But it stands on its own, not just like required reading for fans.
Apparently so. It's a complete, powerful narrative in itself. But what it also does, and this is huge, is how much it deepens the original trilogy.
How so?
By giving us this context for Haymitch, suddenly his actions, his bitterness, his moments of surprising guidance for Katniss and Peeta, it all makes so much more sense. You understand the why behind him. And it also sharpens our view of just how systematic Panem's oppression really is.
So it's like adding a crucial layer to the whole thing.
Exactly. And critics seem to agree. It's getting acclaim, being called things like a timely, powerful examination of media control and moral ambiguity.
Media control, again, that theme seems central.
Very much so. And they're saying it's mature, reflective, good for new readers, but also really resonant for people who've lived with these books for years.
Okay, so the final take seems to be, this is essential.
Pretty much a heart-pounding, deeply layered prequel. That phrase reframes everything you thought you knew keeps coming up. It perfectly sets the stage for Katniss's story, but it's also its own harrowing emotional journey, and it gives you the roots of the rebellion.
Right. So, to kind of wrap up our initial thoughts here, Sunrise on the Reaping feels like it works on two levels. It's Haymitch's personal, brutal story.
His standalone journey.
And it's also this critical piece of the puzzle for understanding the rebellion, the history of Panem, everything that comes later. It fills in so many gaps.
Absolutely. It makes the whole tapestry richer, I think.
So here's something maybe to chew on after hearing all this, something to think about.
Okay.
How do these incredibly personal tragedies, these profound losses like Haymitch endures, how do they become the actual fuel, the painful, undeniable spark for huge societal changes, for movements against oppression?
That's a deep question. Like, how does one person's suffering ripple outwards?
Exactly. How does that individual pain transform into collective resistance, powerful enough to challenge something as massive as the Capitol, something to really ponder?